seen them traversing the length and breadth of the state, canvassing for votes ahead of the polls. So far, the introduction of the bimodal voters accreditation system and electronic transmission of results in Nigeria's electoral system is a moral booster for the electorates, with renewed confidence in the power of the PVC. However, the issue of vote trading, as was witnessed in the recent Ekiti governorship election, has remained a major talking point ahead of Osun polls. How the authorities intend to tackle this problem remains to be seen. But on the part of civil societies and the media, a lot of sensitization has been going on with the intent of educating the voting public on the consequences of selling their votes. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has also declared their readiness to conduct the Osun election. With 1,995,657 registered voters in the state, INEC records show that 1,479,959 voters have collected their permanent voters' cards. Also, 5 INEC national commissioners, 12 resident electoral commissioners, and other senior INEC officers have been deployed to support the Osun office to conduct the election. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Kalibaba, had earlier announced the deployment of 21,000 police officers for the election, while emphasizing that the deployment was not to intimidate residents, but to prevent miscreants from disrupting the election process. To ensure violence-free election, the 15 governorship candidates were also committed to sign a peace accord organized by the National Peace Committee. All eyes are now on Osun State to see who they will choose to pilot their fortunes for the next 4 years. On this episode of Good Morning Nigeria, guests shall be speaking to issues around the Osun State governorship election.
Right, welcome back. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and let's quickly introduce our guest. And is joining us from NTA studio in Osogbo, and we have Shehu Mohammed, who is the head of Department Election and Party Monitoring, INEC, Osun State. That's not him. He'll be joining us, but on screen. Okay, that is Shehu Mohammed, HOD Election and Party Monitoring, INEC in Osun State, of course, joining us from our Osogbo studios. Kingsley.
Okay, now also part of this conversation from our Osogbo Network Studios is the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Johnson Babatunde Kokumo. He is, of course, the DIG in charge of Force Criminal Investigation Department at Force Headquarters in Abuja, but is also the supervising and coordinating DIG for the security component of the Osun governorship election. A couple of weeks ago, we had him where he played the same role for the Ekiti governorship election. DIG Johnson Kokumo, it's a delight to have you on Good Morning Nigeria again. All right, of course, we'll sort out the audio link presently. Now, we also have joining us from Osogbo via Zoom for this conversation, a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Cynthia Mbamalo, who is the program director of Yaga Africa. Cynthia, it's a delight to have you join us on the program from the Osun State capital.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Well, I read your headgear. It's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm sure as the saying goes, area is calm. That would be a security expression for an environment that is placid, as it were. But Cynthia, we'll get back to you presently to get your insights into this election coming up tomorrow. Now, DIG Kokumo, let's begin this conversation with you. In a sense, I mean, let's not say you are almost, as it were, now a pro is superintending the security aspect of off-cycle elections. We do know, of course, that you used to be Commissioner of Police in Edo State. You were there in Osun State. A few weeks ago, you were in Ekiti State. What differences have there been in terms of your preparation, in terms of your outlook and challenges, if any?
Thank you very much. You just mentioned I was in Ekiti some time ago where we had a similar exercise. That's the governorship election in Ekiti. It may interest you to know that in Ekiti we had 16 local governments, whereas in Osun we are having 30 local governments plus one area council, meaning the deployment for Osun governorship election year 2022 is far higher than that of Ekiti. And it may equally interest you that here in Osun State, we have developed littoral community where at Asijire, the boundary between Osun State and Oyo State, where we have coastal communities and adequate deployment had been made from the police marine formation.
DIG Kokumo, thank you very much. I mean, you just given us a sense of the scope of engagements, but I also asked about the challenges. In the lead up to the Ekiti governorship election, there was one incident, at least, of a member of NOTU, that's the National Union of Road Transport Workers, who got put down during one of the clashes. But in the course of the election, there were very few incidents of violence. Eventually, the election went smoothly. But in the lead up to the Osun election, we know that they have signed a peace accord so that they will respect the tenets of peace and right accord. But we do know that some of the aspirant or candidates have had their residence attacked by hoodlums. Now, is this a red flag for what might play out, considering also the scope of the engagements you are now having in Osun State? The scope of the engagement you are now having in Osun State.
Thank you very much. Before now, what we have witnessed in Osun was increased incidents of cultism. That, of course, was before the election. And what the police has been able to do was to have anti-cultism units that have consistently fought against cultism. And before now, there was clear directive from the Inspector General of Police, IGP Usman Alkali Baba, that the command, that is Osun State Police Command, should embark on mop-up exercise, mopping up of light weapons from circulation. These, of course, have been done, and currently we have put a security arrangement in place to ensure that the bordering towns are adequately policed, to ensure that criminal elements do not make incursion into Osun State with such dangerous weapons to be used during the election and, of course, after the election.
All right, DIG Kokumo, I presume that Ekiti, comparatively, with Osun, was quite smaller for you to handle. Osun has about 30 local government areas. What can you tell us about the peculiarities of the security situations that you have to deal with?
Because of the number of local governments, for instance, we are deploying over 21,000 policemen, and this includes land deployment, it includes deployment on the waterways, and of course it includes deployment of our air arsenals. We have 3 helicopters for mission-specific air surveillance. The helicopters are with us here in Osun State. We have adequately deployed on the land. We have our tactical units, we have the PMF, we have the SPU, we have the explosive ordnance unit. We have the conventional policemen. So we have all these on the land, and we have equally strategically deployed to the polling booths. We have a total of 3,763 polling units here in Osun for this Guba election. We have deployed to the polling booths, and by practice, policemen are not supposed to be seen at the polling units. So at a reasonable distance of the polling units, we have created armed units that can quickly respond to violence situations, so that criminal elements will not have a field day by attacking armless policemen deployed to such polling units to protect both the electorates and of course the INEC officials and INEC materials.
All right, DIG Kokumo, thank you very much. Let's pause you in the meantime and bring in the other guests. Now, the Zoom connection to Yaga Africa Program Director Cynthia Mbamalu is still fine, according to what we're hearing from our engineer. So let's quickly bring Cynthia on. Now, you can see her on the right side of the split screen. Cynthia, tell us, is Osun State ready for tomorrow's governorship election? And if they are ready, are there concerns?
Thank you and good morning again. I believe that with the preparations done so far, at least from the part of the Electoral Commission and even the security, a lot has been put in place for the elections to happen. So what are the indicators we usually track before we can say that a state is ready for an elections? And I would start from the preparations from the Electoral Commission. At least Yaga Africa's watching the vote had conducted pre-elections observation in the pre-elections phase, and as at today we confirmed that non-sensitive materials have been deployed to the different local governments, and I know later today the sensitive materials will be deployed, will be moved from the local government to the RACs, the registration area centers. That was the template that was also deployed in Ekiti, and if you remember that Ekiti was indeed a marked improvement when it came to elections logistics. So looking at indicators and from the briefing by the INEC chair on the election stakeholders engagement some days ago, the same template, and they had also committed to improving on what we have what we had in Ekiti for Osun. So later today, we'll also be going to the local government areas to track or to observe the deployment of sensitive materials to the RACs. With respect to deployment of ad hoc officials, trainings had been done last week of all ad hoc officials, so we'll also be observing their deployment to the registration area centers. And the security had also committed to providing security for the elections. But I think for us, there are certain concerns in these elections, and I think one of them has been highlighted already, is the heightened activities of cult groups. We have tracked this consistently in our 5 pre-election observation reports, and even we at the meeting we had with the security yesterday, Yaga Africa had also raised this concern. Particularly, there were concerns of cult activities within Osogbo, Ilesha East and Ilesha West, and some other local governments. And we're really hoping that the security agencies will look into these locations and ensure that these activities of these cult groups do not undermine the credibility of the elections. And another concern we had also raised we had also called on the Electoral Commission is to ensure that at least by close of business today that INEC releases the data of PVCs collected in the state. INEC did not achieve this in Ekiti, but they had committed that by the end of today, before the elections tomorrow, the data for the PVCs collected will be released. Now, this is important because by the new guidelines, the PVC collection data would, the rate of the PVC collection rate would be determining the conclusiveness of elections, especially guiding the margin of lead principle. If you remember that ASUU is quite peculiar with having challenges with concluding these elections. The 2018 elections was not concluded on first ballot, and the election was quite close. In fact, the margin between the two parties that were leading was barely 400 and something votes. So you can imagine it was a close elections. Now, we do not know what the trend would be this time around, but it also promises to be contentious and competitive elections, meaning that it's important this data is available, polling unit level data on PVCs collected, because that is what INEC would be using in determining its margin of lead for this and for these elections, and we hope the commission would be releasing this ahead of the elections. And I think the other concern for us is still around logistics, because Ekiti was a smaller state, so we cannot dwell in past glory. We need to plan for ASUU. ASUU, as we mentioned, 30 local government is a bigger state than Ekiti, and we're hoping that the conversations of the commitment of the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers to the Electoral Commission, that their commitment is held with utmost regard, and that's when it comes to the movement of materials and personnel on elections, that this is treated as an important issue. We're also believing that Electoral Commission, INEC, has contingency plans just in case we have instances where the road transport workers decide to breach their side of their commitment to the contract, because it's always important to work around that. One of the things we've observed is once polls open on time and elections begin on time, it also reduces the tension and it ensures that the process is a bit more sane and smooth. And we believe that if INEC can achieve early commencement of polls in these elections, that would be a major improvement, not just for elections administration, but also in inspiring confidence of the people when it comes to elections. I think one other issue we had raised in our pre-election statement, because we had issued a pre-elections statement yesterday, was the fact that we still observed the trend of imbalance in polling units, imbalance in distribution of voters to polling units. Remember that INEC had created new polling units to expand voter access to polling units. But what our analysis of the official polling unit list indicates that we still have over 200 polling units with over 1,000 registered voters in those polling units. In fact, particularly, there is one polling unit with about 3,000 registered voters. Now, while we had raised this, and we believe that is an important, and that INEC has to take an important decision when it comes to allocation or distribution of voters to polling units. And for us, there are two folds. One, in distributing voters or reallocating voters, that these voters are adequately communicated to, that they've been moved to new polling units. This is important because in Ekiti, we had seen some voters who had the right PVCs, their names were on the register, the INEC's online register, but when they got to the polling units, the BVAS, the bimodal voter accreditation system, did not have their details there. The further investigation revealed that they had been reallocated to a different polling unit, so they were actually authentic voters, but the fact that they were reallocated, they did not know that they had been moved to a different polling unit. And you know that the BVAS is configured to polling units, so their details were not found on the BVAS and they were not allowed to vote. Now, we do not know if we would have that those incidences in ASUU, but we're hoping we do not have a lot of those incidences in ASUU. But we believe that when it comes to the polling unit issues and management of polling units, that the Electoral Commission has an important role once voters are located to communicate to those voters, because on elections they would not have the time to move from polling to polling to know where their current polling units are, especially for the new voters, and beyond just informing voters, but that also there is an important need, at least towards the next elections, that INEC reviews its framework on expansion to ensure proper reallocation and redistribution of voters, so that this imbalance we are seeing is addressed. We know that when you have a lot of voters registered in the polling unit over the benchmark of 750, because INEC had worked with a benchmark of 750 registered voters per polling unit. But if you have polling units with over 1,000, 2,000 registered voters, it becomes a challenge when it comes to management of voters on elections day for the ad hoc personnel deployed to those polling units. And it also raises instances of overcrowding and enables malpractices that would go on, especially vote buying that we're seeing is becoming a major threat to the credibility of our process. So it's important that this issue is addressed. One thing we saw that the INEC did in Ekiti was that from some polling units with a large number of voters, they had more than one BVAS deployed to those polling units. But we saw that in some polling units, they did not have more than one. So we're also hoping that there is some level of clarity on how many BVAS will be deployed to polling units, a large number of registered voters, and that this is done equitably so that every polling unit with a large number of voters, at least beyond 1,000 voters, should have additional personnel, not just additional personnel, but should also have additional BVAS BVAS machines, just so that it reduces the pressure on the polling unit and makes the process a bit more fast and for elections the administration. And lastly, for us as an organization, we're still concerned with the trend of vote buying. We've seen in the pre-elections phase that voter inducement was a major thing. In fact, the political parties have decided to ignore campaigns, issue-based campaigns, and have focused on using monies to induce voters and using gift items to induce voters. This indeed is a horrible trend in our elections, and we need to really call our political parties to order. And we're hoping that on elections day, that individuals who are caught buying votes, that they are duly arrested. We want to see more arrest on elections day of those involved in buying votes and prosecution of every one of them, because once arrest and prosecution is done, it will deter this kind of incidents in our elections. But not just arresting those buying votes, but the sponsors, because there are people giving people money to go and buy votes. I think we need to have a more serious approach in addressing these issues. From the security agency, we want to see more arrests from the police, especially more arrests from the police. If the EFCC is on ground like they were in Ekiti, we also want to see more arrests, a coordinated effort in arresting those who will be buying votes and prosecuting them. I believe that if we start doing that, it will deter such impunity in our system.
Okay, Cynthia, thank you very much for that very exhaustive indication of what is playing out ahead of the ASUU governorship election, and in particular drawing attention to some of the concerns that stakeholders and indeed the election management body should try to put right before voting commences tomorrow. Cynthia, thanks. We're going to pause you, and I'm sure if we have enough time, we'll return to you. Claire.
Yes, let's bring in the HOD of Election and Party Monitoring, INEC Osun State, who is also joining us from our Osogbo studios. Cynthia raised quite a number of issues, and I'd just like for you to take some of those issues and make some clarifications. First, give us the breakdown of the data in terms of the number of PPCs collected, and all that. And do you have contingency plans in case of a breach in logistics by your client? That's one of the issues that Cynthia raised. And lastly, I would also like for you to talk to us about the distribution of the voters to their polling units, which Cynthia also raised.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerian. I quite appreciate the issue raised by Cynthia, but we need not worry. INEC has taken adequate measures to curtail and forestall the occurrence of such issue. In the first instance, allocation of voters to PUs. The Commission doesn't allocate voters to PUs. In the course of expansion of voter access to PUs, a deliberate attempt was made to serve unserved areas, and then to provide for people the new settlements. We did serious enlightenment that people should transfer to new settlement where they were located. You know, in the course of the expansion, right, we did make provision for people that are just turning 18 years of age. Serious advocacy was done in that part. You know, it will be against individual rights for INEC to move them to new PUs. But we did advise, in case of new settlement, we have PUs within your vicinity, which you advise for your conveniences. There will be movement restriction on the election day for you to transfer to that area. We have done we have made serious effort in order to ensure that what happened in FCT and Abra election, where you have 0 PUs, do not happen in Osun State. I'm delighted to say here that we don't have any PUs in Osun State with 0 votes. That deployment will be done across all the 3,763 PUs in Osun State. So in that regard, we have advised people to move their voter, to move their vote to the new area where it will be convenient for them to cast their vote on the election day. Then in the area of deployment, we have done our deployment. The training has been concluded, and then the training of ad hoc staff, the PO, the APO, the SPO, the EMSC, and then the collation officer, all this have been concluded. And then we have moved all our sensitive material that was done yesterday to all the 30 local government, and then the batching has been done at the local government area as well, right? By noon today, deployment will be done to the ROA, that's the registration area center, which another briefing is going to be taking place for all the ad hoc staff, for them to be well equipped and manage their PUs in tomorrow's election. The aspect of contingency plan, we have a kind of serious, a cordial relationship with all the security agencies, the ISS, right, with the police, the DD agency, and all others. In the build up to that election, we had a series of meetings with all the transport union, the RTEAN, the NATO, even the Okada riders. We signed MOU with the body, and then we are having contract with individual. You know, in many instances, the union doesn't have vehicles. It is an individual that have the vehicles and surrender it to the union. So we have made a serious arrangement and a serious, commitment on their part that the vehicle will be made available to us. They signed a memorandum of understanding with us in collaboration with all the security agencies, that they will be committed to that MOU, which we are assuring you, and then we are sure we have done it in the past. This is not the first election we'll be doing in Osun State. We did it in 2018, and then the result was massive. And then we are ready. We are ready to do the same. The outcome of the Ekiti election has challenged us, really, but that notwithstanding, we are battle ready to sustain the tempo. And the election in Osun State has always been used at the tempo. As you are aware, this will be the last election, the last off-season election of this magnitude, as a build up to the general election. So we cannot afford to let Nigeria down. We are ready. You can see the level of commitment of resources and material put in place to ensure free, fair, and credible of this election. 5 national commissioner, 12 resident electoral commissioner, and massive deployment of directors from Abuja and all other supporting staff to ensure that we have free, fair, and credible election in Osun State come 16 July 2022. We have adequate plan in place to ensure the movement of all the ad hoc staff to their various PUs. We have allocated vehicles to the police to ensure the movement of their personnel to the PU as well, in order to forestall late opening of the PUs by tomorrow. So that has been done, and then we are assuring Nigeria and the Osun indigene that their vote we can't.
Before you go, give us the total number of registered voters, total number of PVCs collected, because you've not given us that breakdown. Voters, total number of PVCs, not giving us that breakdown.
Now, thank you very much. The total number of registered voters in Osun is 1,955,657. And then for the PVC collected, we just stopped the collection of PVC yesterday. The data on that is being collected right now. But for now, we have over 1.4 million PVC collected. But for the PU and some other thing, the data will be collected before the close of office today, and then it will be made available to all the EOs and then to all our PUs. So that will be a determinant factor in determining the deployment and then the issue of a lead of margin in the election. That will be done before the close of office today. Thank you.
Sure, Muhammad, thank you very much. But I'm sure that observers of the Osun governorship election remember what played out in 2018, and Cynthia has also drawn our attention to that in our earlier remarks, that Osun was one of in the past inconclusive elections, and the margin of lead was so small, and then you had to have a make good election that in a sense was also very controversial. So these numbers you have said that are still being compiled with regard to the number of PVCs collected, at least 1.4 billion, you did say. We do hope that again later in the day there will be a final number. I'm sure questions will arise as to why the numbers have been compiled so late in the day, just before the elections. Let's bring in DIG Johnson Kokumo one more time to get his closing thoughts. Excuse me, DIG Kokumo, one issue in Ekiti. On the day of election and after the election, the level of there was very minimal violence, as has been acclaimed. Your men were also praised, of course, along with your good self. Osun has its own peculiar challenges, and we do hope that the level of violence will also not be one that can be contained. But in Ekiti, as it was in 2018, there was see and buy, which is vote trading. Your men were said to have done very little, as it were, to either apprehend or otherwise dissuade potential vote traders from getting into that action. That is an offense under the Electoral Act. What are we likely to see in Osun? Because vote trading, and not just election violence, has now become one sore point in our electoral process. DIG.
Very much. When we talk about vote trading, meaning we are talking of vote buying and selling of votes, this is often done in topmost secrecy. An arrangement between the buyer and, of course, the willing seller. In Ekiti State, we had our ears to the ground, and I want to assure the good people of Nigeria that for Osun governorship election, we also have our ears to the ground. The person wanting to buy will not make his intention public. The person who is equally intending to sell will not make his intention public either. So we have evolved strategies to detect, to arrest, and of course prosecute offenders in synergy with INEC that has such prosecutorial powers for the prosecution of electoral offenders. It may appear counterproductive if I will have to discuss police strategy in curbing the incidents of vote buying and vote selling. But we have had our meetings, the interagency consultative committee on election security involving the police, the lead agency, and other services, the military, the civil defense, and of course other law enforcement agencies. We have held our meetings, and of course, we have our plans to ensure that vote buying and vote selling is not allowed Osun 2022 governorship election. And of course, whoever indulges in vote trading will be arrested, as I said, and in synergy with INEC will be processed through the courts.
All right, DIG Johnson Kokumo, of course, he is in charge of coordinating the security agencies for the Osun governorship election. We do appreciate your time with us today, and of course, we would say best of luck to you and to your team. We also would like to thank Shehu Muhammad, who is head of Department Election and Party Monitoring INEC office in Osun State. Shehu Muhammad, of course, we appreciate your being with us, and then best wishes to you as well. We're joined via Zoom by Cynthia Mbamalo, who is Program Director of Yaga Africa. Cynthia, you are all smiles. We do hope that by Monday, that's to say the day after the winner is declared, if the election is smooth and it's not inconclusive, that the smiles will persist. Oshobo has very nice caps, and I'm sure that's one of the ones that was important. Cynthia Mbamalo, thank you very much and enjoy your weekend. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the ASUU matter.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest. To ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
But Nigeria are the 9th champions in this competition.
The 12th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is here with 12 teams including reigning champions and 9-time winners, Super Falcons of Nigeria, all in contention from July 2 to 23 in Rabat, Morocco. You can catch all the actions live on the NTA Network Service and NTA Sports 24, Channel 270 on StarTimes, 434 on StarSat and 731 on Free TV. Come, join us to promote another championship run by the Super Falcons. For your advert placement, please call Hawa on 0803-312-1022. Africa Women's Cup of Nations, Rabat 2022. Game on!
All right, now it's about 5 months since the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, went on strike. That's the 14th of February this year. Now, several negotiations between government and ASUU have failed to resolve the issues in contention. Now, during the Salah holidays, President Muhammadu Buhari, while granting audience to members of the Progressive Governors Forum who were on Salah homage at his Dara residents, expressed his anger and may have also lost patience over the prolonged action by the union in the country. And in his words, that's in the president's words, enough is enough. And to discuss the topic, ASUU strike, let me quickly introduce in our studio this morning Dr. Chris Ngige, the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment. Good to see you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and Kingsley, permit me, because I'm also an interested party. I'm a parent.
Yeah, just like me.
Yeah.
And like me too.
Like me. My last one graduated last December from University of Abuja here. I have 3 of them. They all went to Nigerian universities here.
Yeah. So, Honorable Minister, these
I've spent longer than usual.
Of course, they read medicine for 8 years instead of 6 years, which I read.
So this renegotiation with ASUU has become protracted. Not just protracted, it has taken many twists, many turns, and Nigerians have only been left even more confused with what exactly is going on. We've seen accusations from ASUU, counter accusations from the negotiating, MDAs, and of course the employer. What exactly is going on?
Yeah, thank you. Let me first let Nigerians know what my role is on this matter. My role is that I'm Minister of Labor and Employment.
Mediator.
I'm a conciliator. I'm competent authority on labor issues for Nigeria. That is why, an international body, I will lead a tripartite delegation from Nigeria to go to ILO as their head. Tripartite in the sense that there's a government side there, there's a private sector employers component there, and there are workers component under unions or federation. Federating umbrella for unions in Nigeria is Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, TUC. Luckily for us, the head of Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Ayuba, is also heading what we call ASUU, International Trade Union Organization, of about 160 countries. So Nigeria stands on a good pedestal on labor issue and in the ILO and international fora globally. So we expect to do the best of global practices here. So my role is to make sure that this is done. When government is not doing what they're supposed to do, I will sound note of warning to them. When labor unions are not doing what they're supposed to do, I will warn them. When private employers, their umbrella in Nigeria for today is NECA, Nigeria Employer Consultative Assembly, where you now have affiliates going in there, MAN, Nasima, and the rest of them. I also will warn them. If you need advice, I will advise them properly. Now, as a conciliator and a minister, you now can see that I'm wearing double cap. What is my double cap? My double cap is that government is also an employer here. All the people in the public service are government employees. So the Nigerian government is also an employer, just like the private sector is an employer. So when issues of disputes occurs, the Labour Act, which I have here today to show you, specifies my role. I have rules here. I have some inherent powers here. My first role is that in the ministries, agencies, and departments of government, we have to advise them properly on how to discuss with their workers so that there will be no dispute that will spill over. To that extent, we have what we call labor desk, manned by officers of directorate cadre in ministries and agencies, and especially the volatile ones: education, health, petroleum, aviation, judiciary, environment, agriculture. These are where we post our staff to assist those people. But we have two major volatile ministries and their parasitas that labor issues keep on recurring. Ministry of Health, Education, with their teaching hospitals and federal medical centers. Ministry of Education, with their universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and even federal secondary schools. So our desk is in education. We'll be guiding them on labor issues. But when they don't listen, that is when you have a spillover.
Who are the they that don't listen?
The officials there. When they don't do what they're supposed to do, they need to nip things in the bud. And when the unions themselves, sometimes they can be overbearing and overzealous and overdemanding. So the problem that is making all these things stay up is economic. We need more wages, increase in wages, allowances, salaries, made worse by the fact that everybody is going to the federal government treasury to take money. Health, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, everybody, federal treasury, federal allocation, federal appropriation. Education, university teachers, university workers, polytechnic teachers, college of education teachers, all, even the education centers. So this is the issue. If I now come back to the ASUU strike, I have conciliated at least 3 ASUU strikes since I came on board, 3 to 4. I became minister in 2015. And by this law, once negotiation fail with the employer in their ministry, I do what is called apprehension by section 8 of this act. I apprehend it because there is a breakdown. It means the parent ministry, their direct primary employer, can no longer handle it. That's why a strike action comes. This law also say you give notice to your employer and to the competent authority on labor issue, which is me, of an impending breakdown. That is on the part of the union. You also give warning or advance notice, 21 days for essential services, 15 days for normal. Oh, what is, if government says some truth, I will know because I'm part of government. If you don't say what are not obtainable, I will also know because they have to present me the documents and the evidence, and we exchange it. So the ministry should have done. No, it's not my job. My job is when there is a breakdown now and a dispute. Having advised before from the deck in those places, I now have to apprehend, bring everybody back to the table. What does this law? So what does this law also say? This law also say that once I apprehend, everybody goes back to status quo. Negotiations are on. You go back to your work. That's what is here. It's not my law. It's a law of National Assembly of Nigeria.
Honorable Minister, we need to take some time because yes. So with regards to ASUU, where are we exactly at the moment?
Where we are exactly is that ASUU started a strike on 14th of February